I'm going to do my best to not have any distractions. Please bear with me for just a minute. Sorry. I just want the least amount of distractions as possible, which is funny because I had to... Oh, are you going to go away? There we go. I had to really work to be able to do this video. Little girl is during her time, quote unquote, the moon cycle, if you get my drift. And it's been hard to keep her and Sammy separated and keep him from hurting her and her from hurting him. So I am low on sleep and I apologize for my irritability. I would ask for some grace and some forgiveness, but I know that is in short supply. I'm also going to do my best to keep these videos that I do, I'm doing them out of obedience. I firmly believe, I believe I know that I'm being obedient and doing what I was asked to do and what I believe I was led to do at this time. And if you don't believe me, that's fine as well, right? No big deal. But I do got to give you a little context here. So I'm going to do a real quick background and then I'll get into things. But I want to show you what I opened up to. I needed a little encouragement. And I opened up to Acts. And this actually really fits the experience that I had the other day while doing the Seven Sorrows Rosary. So I'm going to read it to you real quick. And this is Acts 14:11, 147. This is a KJV. This is a KJV New Testament only. Easy to read. So it's for pretty much anybody out there. And it came to pass, and I apologize for like jitters or shaking or any of that. I'm doing the best that I can. And it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews, and to spake that a great multitude both of the Jews and also of the Greeks believed. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. Long time therefore abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Jews, and part held with the apostles. And so it goes. So I'm going to tell you about an experience that I had, and you don't have to believe me. But I have to get it out in order to be obedient. If you followed me on the original channel, Buri and Jen, you know that I've been stalked, followed, harassed, monitored on my channels, trolled on my channels, stalked, harassed. I believe there are YouTubers involved in this of the higher echelon. Most of them say brother. Who does that? Who calls another guy brother? It's not the norm. And that people misunderstand, it's not just a brotherhood out there. There's a very dark underpinning to all of these topics. And originally, it was the brotherhood of the fallen, the watchers, who took an oath. Because Semyaza didn't want to be the only one who would face punishment. So he said, if I'm going to do this thing, let you all do it with me. And let us take an oath on it, that we shall not turn back. And so they did. And I believe that brotherhood got its tentacles into what I believe started as a godly ambition, and things like Freemasonry, Knights of Columbus, maybe the Eastern Stars, and even local associations in your community. But a little background. I'm not going to defend myself or my beliefs in this video. That's not the purpose of this video. You can go see my other testimonial videos if you're interested in that. Comments are not on right now so that I do not get distracted and I'm not carried away in my thoughts. This has been a very stressful 6 years for me, but an even more stressful 3.5. I thought that I would be removed from the game board, so to speak, on April 8th. I'm actually very surprised I am still here. It is all at God's grace. Every breath we breathe is at God's will. But we are given free will to make a choice, and every man, woman, and child has a choice to make, and time is very, very short. There is so much hope in the world. But unfortunately, we are in a tumultuous time, and God is warning people. And I'm not going to get into a denominational argument with you either. God is talking to people of every ilk, Muslims, Jews, unbelievers, Satanists, New Agers, which again, I do happen to believe that almost every one of those religions has some truth to it, or else people would not be so attracted to it. You almost have to have the truth, some part of truth, to get people to go along with something for any extended period of time. Or you have to have the numbers against them. I'm going to touch on voting for a second. So this is what happened, because this is when I believed they tried to end me yet again. And I've gone over all this. Again, I'm not here to defend my whole testimony. This is leading up to the quote-unquote vision or image that I was given, picture that I saw as I was doing a 7 Sorrows Rosary and coming off of a fast. And it's important you understand the context. So they tried to kill me again. So last week, maybe it was about a couple weeks ago now. A couple weeks ago. And yeah, I know. People like to pick at your backgrounds, right? You're an idolater, you're this, you're that, you're a pagan. That's part of the problem, is us. It's our behavior and how we treat each other. But let me get back to them trying to kill me again. Let me also be very clear about this. I know that the people who stalk me are in a very specific community. Most of them are a part of a radical movement inside of the rainbow community. I say that because I don't hate anyone. Okay, I do hate people at certain moments, but I think we all do. I think that's only because you love so much. I don't think we hate the person. We hate what they're doing, right? But we say things that we shouldn't say. And I am the worst of the worst when it comes to that, or at least that's what I believe. And I have to believe that because it keeps me grounded and aware of my actions, because we're in a time when that automatic pilot, these routines that we build up over the years, they are really going to start dragging us down because they are not beneficial. They go against our own nature, most of them, and they go against the nature of God and the way things are supposed to operate here. I have family in that community. I have no problems with anyone in that community other than how they're treating me. And I would ask them, why is it that you're so angry at some woman that you don't even know or barely know, or all you know is stuff you've heard from other people? I would argue that it's not me that you hate so much. I firmly believe, in fact, I know that I've dealt with Antichrist spirit in this area. And I say in this area because it is legion. You talk to one, you've talked to them all. They all talk the same. They say the same words. They vote the same. They bully you if you don't want to vote. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. This is in big part about elections. And I am anti-political. I am not political. I think bringing politics into faith systems, into religion and religious observance is what ruined religion. I think bringing politics into the schools is what ruined the schools, kicking God out. And I have to declare right now, as a firm Christ follower, I don't think we are supposed to support the separation of church and state. However, at the same time, people should have the ability to practice out their faith and walk it out no matter what it is, as long as they're not harming anyone else or stealing their property. The big ones. Don't steal, don't kill, don't cheat, deceive, right? Those things all lead to bad agreements, and then you have all this dishonor, and I told you how all the things I love are being attacked. France is obviously under some kind of judgment, and again, this is very suspicious to me, I have a really hard time believing that opening ceremony was even part of the Olympics. I don't even know if France knows that's what we saw here in America. I think that somebody is trying to start an all-out world war, and they're trying to get every nation against itself and each other, and that is exactly what Satan does, and it's being allowed to happen. And so my channel is just an appeal to you. This is my act of repentance and penance. And if you don't believe me, you don't like what I have to say, that is absolutely okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to bully you into trying to agree with me. I'm not going to bully you into trying to behave yourselves. But I will stand for what's true, and I will stand for what's right, because I didn't for a long time, and it harmed my children, and it harmed my family, and it harmed my own self, and it hurt God, and it hurt my community. Our actions do have a all-encompassing butterfly effect. So to this first offense. So I had went to the Mexican restaurant. I was waiting on some food. And I told you these guys all bother me. All these old men. You should really be ashamed of yourselves for following. Like, I'm young enough to be your daughter, and you do nothing but follow me around and harass me. And it's gross and it's despicable. But anyways, I was sitting there having a beer, and of course somebody come in and started talking to me, and I went with it because it was a decent conversation. There wasn't anything wrong with it. And they started talking about voting. And I said, let me just ask you, like, why are you so interested in whether or not I vote and how I vote? Now, this is where we get into, and again, this plays into my testimony. And this is why I don't use names, because I don't even know if these people understand how they're being used. Lobbyists basically are bullies now. They're tormentors. They are the DTs, the domestic you-know-whaters. And I'm not going to say the word because I'm not going to say it. You can see all my disclaimers on my channel and in every description box of every video. They're trying to bully people into voting one way or another, and it happened at the last election, and now it's ramping up again. And they're trying to bully me into voting for Trump. I'm not going to vote for that man. I don't know if he's a robot now. I don't know what happened. And I'm going to get to that because, yeah, I do have plenty of video proof that these people or these images they're showing are not legitimate people. Do I pray for our world leaders? Absolutely. But I'm not going to go vote for some robot. It's not happening. I think it's the beast, and I think the beast, AI, whatever you want to call it, was handed control. And I also think that it's very possible it's a sentient being, and that as with everything else, how we treat our animals, how we've treated our children, how we've treated those lower than us in the hierarchy, it is all coming back to us right now. We are all under judgment. Everyone on the face of the earth right now is under judgment. And you're going to say, well, Jen, these things have happened all throughout history. Yeah, sure, whatever. Again, see all my other videos for all that. So they're trying to bully me into voting a certain way. Somebody hands me a shot, and of course, I'm all caught up and I drink it. Because when you're an automatic pilot, you don't even realize that you're going back to these old habits that you thought you had defeated. So this is also a confession of sorts. I did not get drunk. I did not get blackout drunk, but I did get frustrated and irritated that this old man would not leave me alone. Kept pestering me and pestering me and pestering me. Well, if there was a Catholic, would you vote then? And I was asking him right in front of people, why don't you tell everybody why it's so important to you what I do? Tell them why you follow me around. Tell them why you monitor me so much. One single lone woman in a small town in northeastern Ohio. Why do you do this? Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. You're going to have to give yourself up. Like, it's going to happen. It's already happening. Your arrogance has gotten a hold of you. And even your little minions are starting to crack. Anyways, so I leave the Mexican restaurant that late. Let me be clear, there still isn't a real Catholic on the ballot. But let's continue. You should be ashamed also. We're supposed to avoid the near occasion of sin, which means I should not have been in that establishment. I realize that now. I will not go back in even to get the vegetarian food that I eat. It's not going to happen under my own will. I'm going to avoid that near occasion of sin, period. You should be ashamed of yourself for trying to get me to a point where I would not have my faculties about myself. You should be ashamed of yourself, and I know who you are. Barking at me when you drive by me, barking at me when I'm at the restaurant. I've tipped you well. I've treated you well. You just got married, yet I walk into the restaurant, and you and some other dude are sitting there hugging on each other. This isn't okay. None of this is okay. Anytime you have and I want to be very sensitive when I say this. Anytime you have a sin of a sensual nature that's in your life that you have not gotten rid of, or you're not repenting of, or you've not confessed, right? Because confession releases something. This is why they want to shut things like that down. They don't want you confessing. They don't want you apologizing. And they don't want you forgiving. Every one of these big YouTubers that's involved in this stalking agenda, every one of them. This is unforgivable. This is unforgivable. I cannot wait, young men, because most of you is the boys. I cannot wait until it's you, because it will be. First they came for the Jews, and I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Christians, and I said nothing because I'm not a Christian. Then they came for the Muslims, and I said nothing because I'm not a Muslim. Then they came for my neighbor, and I said nothing because it wasn't me. Then they came for me, and there was nobody left to say anything on my behalf. The younger generation is being so manipulated. So after this happened, a couple of days later, I'm riding to work right at that intersection where the restaurant is on Main Street in a very small town in Ohio. And when it says walk, you shouldn't walk. And when it says cross, you should not cross. Because it's always backwards, every time. Every time it says to cross, there's traffic moving. So I'm watching traffic and nobody goes. So I take my turn, and there was only, I think, 2 other cars, like right where I'm crossing, right? Just going straight across. And that car right there that I would have crossed in front of started going as I'm in front of it. Thank goodness that I have an older bike at this point in time, and I didn't lose my footing, and I was able to get up that sidewalk and the hill. And I thought I recognized the person, but I didn't say anything. And lo and behold, a couple days later, this person has CV. Doesn't show up for a couple of weeks. Suddenly they're there again yesterday, the day before. And I love this person, and I prayed for this person's health and recovery. I do. That's just who I am. That's who God made me. That's Christ in me. That's not me. Because you know, when I'm me and I'm behaving like me, I got a real problem with my mouth. Things just pop out. But the good bits, that's Christ. That has nothing to do with me. I mean, I'm trying to cooperate with him. And there is good in us. God created us and said, you are good. Every person that tries to hurt me, because I've had things put in my food. I was given a hamburger that I would swear had formaldehyde in it, and I don't even know what that tastes like, but I know that that's what it tasted like. It's one of the reasons I stopped eating meat. I know there have been things put in my drinks because I've totally lost time at the end of the night, and I was in my own home when it happened, so it was nothing. So this is a recurring thing, and the Bible says, though I may drink poison, it shall not harm me. And though serpents may sting me, it shall not kill me. We are protected for as long as we are protected with our testimony until such a time as we're done being refined. And it's our time to graduate. Accelerate to the next level. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you about this vision. Or whatever it was, because now I've got things happening around me, and I don't know if they're going to try and set me up again. But again, I've said before, prison might be the safest place for some of us. There's 4 walls, right? A roof. It might be. I don't know. I'm not telling you to go seek that out, okay? I'm just telling you Paul did it. And if it happens to me, and if God wills it, then I'll get through it too. It is what it is. We're here until we're not. And I believe I've been given a peek into a lot of these things just because I've been so obedient and because some heinous abominations have been taken out upon my body and my person. And I think when I ask for rain, God gives it to me. And I think when I ask for sun, God gives it to me because God is good. It is us that see things darkly through a dark glass. We are on the other side. We are in the upside down. The way we see things is dark. It is perverted. That's us at times. Because by default, we made Satan our God and we started sacrificing things to him. We started sacrificing life to him. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about this vision or whatever it was, but I am going to lead up to it, and I'm going to be as brave and as quick as I can. Praise God. Thank you that I'm able to get through this and everything is peaceful for right now. And again, I'm doing this out of obedience. I don't want to do this. I put it off for a couple of days. It made me sick to my stomach. Strange things happened to me at work, and I know that I have to do this because that's how it goes every time. When I'm reluctant, it doesn't stop until I'm obedient. So I have to do this. This is why I read the story of Jonah over and over again, because I'm the same way. I don't want to be doing this. This is why I don't give names, because a lot of this involves people that I love dearly, that I would do anything for, that I have done anything for, except give away my soul. And your soul has everything to do with your free will, so do not give that away by voting. And I'm going to tell you, and you might think, well, Jen, you're very anti-politics. Maybe you made this up. Well, if you want to believe that, that's okay. Okay? But if you watch these videos in order and you see how things progress and you see that everything I've been given is happening. And it's not because so much I have an inside track. The people around here, I believe, are totally immersed and involved in what's going on. There are more people involved than not involved. And I do believe it is the tribulation. So yeah. And God told me I was a witness. He told me to witness. And so that's what I'm doing. And I know this makes me a target, and I don't want to be a target anymore. Nobody wants to be called crazy. Nobody wants to be bullied. Nobody wants to be hit. Nobody wants to have their ears sewn back on. Nobody wants these things to happen to them. But enough complaining, because I shouldn't do that. I apologize. God asked me to do this. I'm going to do it. So I was fasting. And the fasts are shorter now. They're not as long as they were at the beginning of all of this. That's how I know Christ is going to be here soon, because the book tells us, why would you fast when your Lord is with you, when your loved one is with you? You don't fast and go into mourning and grief until they are far from you. But I believe he is getting closer, and so this is why my fasts are getting shorter, because my body, I don't make my body is under submission, but you have to understand, in as much as to where I can be, I'm in submission to God. So there are certain things are born in the spirit, so it affects your physical, right? Anyways, I've been doing this long enough, and it's happening to me, and that's what it means. I know it because it's my body. The book tells us you only fast when your loved one or your grief or what have you, when they are far from you, when you are in the ashes, when you are in mourning, right? When you're grieving. You don't do that when he is at the table with you. And so I'm only able to fast now intermittently for like 24, 48, sometimes 72 hours. But when this first started, I could easily go a week, week and a half. I think the longest I went so far was 2 weeks. And again, I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. You can find all my disclaimers on the channel page and in every video. This is my testimony, my story. Nobody else has a right to hijack it, hide it, use it. I do not consent. Unless you are the Most High God who created this entire universe and everything in it. Life itself. Unless you created the Adam, the Eve. Unless you're the great maker, the great baker. Okay, get it? Because they like to mock God, so they have his names, right? Elon, Elion. God knows who we're praying to, though. So let's be real clear about that as well. For any, these atheistic questions they give you, if you're older than 9 or 10 years old, you should really easily, and I'm ashamed to see professing Christians. Well, what if somebody is in a far removed tribe and they never hear the gospel? What then? What are you going to do then? Man, they got me. Dude, it's God. He will bring the angel of the Lord to that tribe. He will do as he pleases. Stop limiting God. We really got to stop limiting God in this time especially. We need to believe in miracles, and we need to have hope, and we need to stop making false idols out of men who I don't even think are men at this time, at least the ones we're seeing. Men like Trump and Peterson and Batman Stop it. You're going to bring perdition down upon the whole nation. It has to stop. So I was on a fast, and I was doing the Seven Sorrows Rosary, which I have been doing pretty much the entire time I've been actively witnessing, almost 3.5 years. I've been saying a rosary and then the Seven Sorrows for like the last 1.5 years, 2 years I've been saying. Almost every day I do my best. Sometimes my whole day is nothing but mental prayer because of the situation that I find myself in. So as the Seven Sorrows Rosary, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sorry if I was disrespectful there. For anyone who does not know, I understand that the beads do not contain God. I understand that Mary is not God. We are told right in the commandments to honor thy mother and father, and she is Christ's mother. So I probably would be damned if I dishonored her. And I'm just being real. But they hate women. They hate mothers. Which is ironic considering they fell because of women. Maybe that's why they hate us. But it's not even us so much as the message, the mission. God's making a family for himself, man. He's doing something new. And he's giving everyone fair warning to join him and hang out at the homestead. He has plenty of room for everybody. So the Seven Sorrows, you go through the 7 most sorrowful times of Mary's life as a mother, watching her son walk out his ministry. And I'm sure she wanted to get up on that cross herself and take his place, and I'm sure she would have, but she was being obedient and submissive. The perfect example of submission. And the Protestants are missing their mother. And I'm just being honest because time is short and every church is under judgment. And I would not throw the bathwater out with the baby out with the bathwater, right? But a lot of us are going to have to start worshiping at home. A lot of you probably do now. And it's not enough to, if you really want to protect your family, yourself, and you want to retain your own free will and your soul, it's time to go big or go home. Because they're sneaky about gaining your consent. And there are too many people here walking around who are still unsaved. Will there be more people? I think if like everything was locked in and the numbers were done, I don't think this would still be continuing, but that's just my best guess, speculation. So as I'm going through Mary's 7 Sorrows for each decade, for each new set of 10 Hail Marys that I say, I'm dedicating each one to a different group of people. The first one was for the Pope, the Vatican, and the clergy, if they are even still there, and the church. The second one, I think, and nuns, of course. The second one, I think, was for, I might have said something specifically for women and mothers that day. I know I said something specifically for sons, and that's when I closed my eyes, because I'll dedicate each decade, right? And then I close my eyes, and in my mind, I will envision that scene of the Bible, whether it's the prophecy from Simeon, the flight into Egypt, or her meeting Christ on Calvary. That's what I'm visualizing in my head. So I closed my eyes after I dedicated that decade. And I wish that I could paint this for you because it was really pretty. And I am an artist, so I do have a vivid imagination. But please understand I didn't put the pieces of this picture together until after, and that's the only reason I made this video, because I did not want to make it. Not at all. You'll see why in a minute. So I close my eyes, and everything is like vignette, if you see that saying on your phone, but instead of black, it's all white. And as everything is all white, sorry, my back is hurting me. As everything is all white, I see the head covering of Mary, which is teal, but it's more of a deep emerald this time. It's kind of dark, and it's very vibrant against this like white background. It's almost like she was the only thing that had color. And all I see is like the impression of a house, but I see her knelt, and I assume she's in a garden because I just see a little bit of garden green peeking out. But for some reason I knew like there was a garden there or something there. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna visualize this rosary pretty good, huh? So I just went with it. I was, again, as this is happening, it's only a moment or two, I am saying a Hail Mary in my mind. And later on, I can tell you what I've been doing. I've been praying and counting reps as I exercise so that my mind can always be working on something in the background. I'm doing that to kind of hide my thoughts. And there's a reason I'm doing that. These beings are not playing fair. They're not supposed to be going against our consent. They're not supposed to be going against our consent and fabricating consent and manipulating consent, because truly that's not consent at all when they do that. Okay, so you guys can look at the flat earth some more. I stretched for a minute. So she turns around, right? And I'm thinking, I'll just go with this. My mind's carrying me away, and I'm saying my Hail Mary. And she turns around. And as she turns around, I see all of this at once. I see her face. I see the vibrant colors. I see the trim in gold. I see the red sash and the off-white robes with the mantle of Mary's mantle. Oh, Mary's mantle. That's what I wanted to show you. This is Mary's mantle. Whenever you see this pattern, that's Mary's mantle. Okay, so, oh, my guides are here, Francis. Sorry, St. Francis goes there because he reminds me of my dad. Okay, so as she's turning around, I'm taking in all these colors. She's very vibrant, and I'm horrified because I look down and her finger is bleeding and she's holding a rose in her hand. And I couldn't tell if the blood was caused by the thorn or what she was, the shears, right, that she was using, that she had in her other hand. And of course she had a rosary around the sash too, but I was horrified. I was just like, and I took her hand in mine, and I didn't even get to say anything, right? Like, I was just horrified. And she looked up at me and she said, soon it will fall from the sky. She meant blood, right? Because she's bleeding. And I'm like horrified. I'm like, this, and I stopped my rosary right there. I'm like, oh my gosh. Thinking that, okay, maybe it's the enemy throwing this into my mind. They don't want me to finish this rosary, so I'm going to finish it. So that was the first order of business, was to finish out that rosary. And then I got to thinking things through reasonably and logically, and I said, okay, it could be my imagination. I have a pretty strong devotion to Mother Mary these days, being the mother of Christ and all, and I feel like I need to treat her well, and I need her as an example to be a better woman. Anyways, I don't think Satan can imitate Mary because he hates her that much. I don't think he would even try. And I don't think he would be allowed to. And that's why I was horrified when I told the priest about the first dream I had about Mother Mary, when he told me, well, that wasn't her. Like, immediately, that's the first words out of his mouth. And he probably felt me like rear back. And again, it's a confessional. He can't see me, I can't see him. And that one, there isn't even a choice. Like, everything's real. Anyway, this place is bizarre. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I don't think Satan could do that. I don't think he could pretend to be Mother Mary like that. So I just had an imagination, right? It's just my imagination. Then I start getting that feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I'm like, oh man, that's what I get for doubting God. Here it comes. I'm gonna be going through a thing until I get this video out, and I gotta work for the next 2 days. So I go to work, and it's the let's make you think you're crazy thing. I refilled this cheese thing, all of a sudden it's missing again. Asked somebody else to refill it, he did, I watched him do it, turn back around, it's missing again. 2 new people at work, which are And again, I don't have any problem with any of these people. I think we have a good time. They're all really cool. They all seem to work really hard. But I know that I am hated by this Antichrist spirit, and I know that there's an agenda on, and I know that they want me out of this area, and blase, blase. On and on it goes, right? So please don't think that just because I continue to be nice to you, or because I continue to try to be Christ to you and show you Christ, please don't think that I'm that naive that I don't know what's going on. Seriously. And it would do you well if you're going to continue to lie to me, especially if you're really new to this game, to just not try to interact with me in that way. It's not a good idea. I'm a pacifist. I seek to do no harm to anybody. I'm just saying, for whatever reason, whenever this has happened in the past, these last few years, whenever somebody tries to hurt me, something happens to them. Nothing I do. They just seem to like go away from the area. They move. They're relocated. I don't know. Things just get strange. But I don't think God is going to place that covering on us forever, and this is why I'm giving you this message. So then I go and I look up. I said, okay, well, I was getting my stuff ready for work, and all I had was my green hiking pants, and I like my gray ones. And I'm like, can I wear red and green? It's not Christmas. Is that the only time you can wear red and green? And then right as I said that, what flashed in my mind, but that quote-unquote vision that I had of Mary and her mantle, and how she was wearing the red and the green, and my imagination, vision, I don't know what to call it, okay? And I don't call myself anything other than hopefully a daughter of God at this point, of the maker, creator, candlestick maker, you know what I mean? The most high, original, OG, goat, God over all things. That's what that means, goat, God over all things. Turn it into a hashtag. It's no longer greatest of all time, and if it is greatest of all time, it's because it's God over all things, okay? So anyways, then I look at the symbology of the vision, and I'm like, wow, she was kneeling in front of a white house. And I'm like, yeah, Jen, but the whole thing was white except for her, right? And the rose. Now, mind you, I haven't had cable for a very long time. I've never been to DC. I've never toured the White House. That's never happened for me. So I look it up. Does the White House have a rose garden? Wouldn't you know they do? Guess whose rose garden it is? It's the Kennedys' rose garden. Which is real funny because, like I said, I didn't even know what the Mandela effect was until my 11-year-old, and that was in like 2011, asked me about it. He asked me, do you know what the Mandela effect is? And I'm like, no, what is it? And he told me, and I'm like, yeah, that's just rebranding, hun. Some companies do it all the time. And again, I think they're testing me. They want to see what children of God believe, like what it is that will. I think they've used people like me to test us this whole time, so they knew what they could get away with or what would pass as the real thing right now in this time. It's real funny because I said I didn't consent to clones, and now I said I don't consent to droids walking around, and there's a new video of a wrestler. That's funny too. God listens, man. And no, I'm not saying that I am God, because I did not make this place, and because no, not everything I read or everything I watch happens. It's just certain things. And it all happens to be stuff that like the Dean Koontz book that started the CV awareness of this stuff happening. I read Dean Koontz for years before any of this happened. Some of us are just being used because of the niche that we're in, because of our wheelhouse. Look us up on YouTube. There's so many people out there like me, having dreams, having visions, having conversions of Mary, of Christ, of earthquakes and calamities. So I realized she's in front of the White House, and she's in the White House rose garden, and she says, soon it will fall from the sky, meaning blood. And I do not think that that was parabolic speak. Why do I not think that? Because it says something about it raining blood in the end days. Now, I'm going to change tracks here, and after this, I'm going to bounce. But, and again, if I wanted to, I could sit down, I could speak eloquently, I could have the tripod up, I could have wrote myself a script in Old English so I sounded like an old-fashioned prophet. You know, that's, I guess that's what the Mormons do, that they're prophets. Well, they even write like the older prophets. It is so easy to deceive people now that I don't even know. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want no money from any of you. I might ask every now and again for help with Sammy or something if somebody wants to hit up the PayPal. I don't think the channel has ever garnered over a total of $2,000. And a lot of that I have paid forward, just so you guys know. So you don't think like, oh, well, she just, no. I don't do that. I just don't. I have other sins, right? So when I say the rainbow community has been stalking me and all this stuff, it's not because I hate them. It has nothing to do with that. I've never been mean to them or anything. The only thing I've ever said is that the elitists who started that did it for a very specific reason, and it was to remove the age of consent from children. So they haven't been able to do that yet. So instead, they're getting all these bigger YouTubers to get their children worked up, riled up. You ever seen how the kids act with Logan Paul when he was throwing candy and money everywhere? This is going to end badly if people don't start watching their children, taking the internet away from them, quit letting them be on those iPads and everything. This is going to let it get a little gross. And with all due respect, I don't know any other way to explain it or describe it. I've said for a long time that I believe the 5G signal is a cloak of some sort, that I believe the ancient little g gods are here with us and always have been, and I believe that the Nephilim giants are walking around, but we can't see them. We've been giving indicators of that. Whoever the cameramen are at this time, the people who are controlling the cameras, they are showing us these things. But they're scared. So they're not coming out and saying anything. They're just showing us. They're letting certain things go live and on the air that probably should not be. RT was really big for that. And after I did that video of Mexico that they showed in 2019 of the Mexico quake, they showed a hillside. And there were all these trees, right? You could see the hill like, it was like boom, 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 boom. And I'm shaking the phone on purpose so you could see boom, boom. And as that's happening, you see these trees like just go, whoosh, like something giant was just walking in them and just went like this. Whoosh. That's why they shut off RT. Not because of politics. And they're not fighting over oil. Although in some weird way they are. People think that they're high class. People think that they're educated. I read the newspaper. I listen to NPR. Don't you know? I smoke a pipe. I do all these things, right? You think that's going to help you. If these things have been let loose. Fee, fi, fo, fum. You remember Jack and the Beanstalk? What do you suppose would have happened when if the giant would have come down that beanstalk and he'd have picked Jack up and put him in his mouth? Do you think they have manners? Or do you think he'd have let his food run down his mouth and then fall onto all the other little people there? It would be raining Jack. Hence, raining blood. I know that sounds gross. And I know that you're like, what are you talking about? Man, look at the signs. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And why do you think mukbang got so big? And why do you think they have these things called foodies and feeders now? Number one, to celebrate gluttony, but that's not the only reason. Soylent Green, underground tunnels. How much further do I have to go? Are you getting it yet? Give it a thumbs up if you get it. So I know that, like, hey, I'm putting myself at risk here. I know that this right here, I'm going to need a lot of prayers for, like, speaking on this. You don't have to believe me, but please, if you're the praying kind, especially if you're a Catholic, Protestant, and you want to pray in the name of Jesus for me, I would appreciate that. For my sons, for my doggy, my best friend, for my family, for my community, for our nation. Why do you think Biden is so big now? I told you guys this months ago, and I'm gonna find that picture of Biden and Jill with the Carters. Funny, they announced that Jimmy Carter died a few months after they took that picture, after they were pictured in their little house. The Bidens couldn't even stand up. They had to kneel next to the seats. So have they always been this way and they're just now showing it? Have they always used filters before? Are they just really hungry and ravenous to the point where they don't care anymore? Like what happened the first time around? As in the days of Noah, please wake up. Please pray. Please fast. I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. I'm not a seminarian. I'm not a counselor. I'm not an expert of anything or anyone other than not even my own self, because I'm just not. I know I do not worship the moon or the stars, but I know that God made them and I love them, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go pray now and enjoy the rest of the day with my best friends while there's still things to enjoy. There's hope in Christ. He's coming. It's getting closer. That's why it's harder to fast. You don't fast when the King is with you.